Welcome back to The Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. I want to talk about something important today, and that is being a Christian and fighting, or being a warrior. A lot of times you get the idea as a Christian, and you've heard it so many times, that we're to just turn the other cheek and not fight, and the meek shall inherit the earth. That word's been looked at so many times as weak and lowly and pathetic and totally lame. And I really want to clarify this. This is something very dear to my heart, and it's one of the most important things that I think that I can touch on and talk about. I haven't done it before because it's kind of a touchy subject, and there might be few that after this conversation might be, the unleashing's too intense for me. I'm just gonna have to unsub. I can't hang here any longer, and that's totally fine because, like, if you gotta go, you gotta go. But the point is on this that, you know, as Christians, we're called to be defenders and protectors of the weak, and really, as a Christian, somebody who walks with God, it's our like solemn duty. We're not to go out seeking trouble or anything like that, but we should be ready for it and willing to fight in any form that takes place. And I really want to touch on that today, and I think it's really important. My story starts all the way back as young as I can remember, first grade. And I can remember further than that, but I remember in elementary school, kids would get picked on, and fifth graders, fourth graders, some that were up there quite a ways bigger than us, would be bullying kids in my school, would be bullying kids in my grade or whatever. And I would go out there and I would defend them, and whatever that would entail, me bumping heads together with them, or bumping their heads together, or pushing and running, or whatever it was. You know, I was always looking out for the weaker, the smaller guy. It's something that's been written in my heart my entire life, and I've never stopped. Even to this day, I'm always looking out for the younger guy, and I've done that in street fights that I've been in, and I'm not talking about where you just get into a little something. I'm talking about like organized street fights where you're in a circle of cars at night, and everybody's got their lights shining, and there's people around watching, and nobody knows what's going to happen. I've been in several different ones, and most of the time it's to make a point, and that is what the point is it's not to push power or anything like that, but it's to set the point that they're doing something wrong, and you're cleaning it up. And if they straighten their lives out, then there's not going to be an issue anymore, okay? But I want to talk about all the different things and the correlation in the Bible of being a warrior, and as Christians, how we are called to be warriors and held to the highest standard of that. All right, and by the end of this, I hope you understand that what we become after all this in the next is nothing short of the greatest warriors. All right, and we're going to be held to a prestige that's unmatched or unchallenged. All right, and I just want to talk about this whole thing and really cover it, because the church doesn't really talk about it, and when they do, most of them, 90% of Christianity has it completely wrong, and they'd rather just lay down and die, and instead of sticking up for what's right. So I'm going to pull out some verses and other things like that, and I really want you to pay attention to this, because this is very important, okay? But the other day I was looking through some comments, and somebody had wrote to me, and it was from a video that I did about 3 months ago or something like that, and he was saying that exercise profiteth little a man, and he was quoting to me 1 Timothy 4:8, for bodily discipline it is only of little profit, but godliness is profitable for all things, since it holds promise for the present life and also the life to come. And of course, you can't throw a scripture out to me without me not knowing instantly what it is. Like I say, I read the Bible every day, and I've read it multiple times, all the way through, word for word. And I'll encourage you to, because that is the first step for being a spiritual warrior. Nothing can come against you when you have that. And anything you hear, you can be like, no, that is not what it says, all right? We're to be weapons not only spiritually but also physically in that sense, okay, so that nothing can come against you. And the stronger you are, it's the more weight you can carry, it's the more you can help others. All right, so I get into it with this guy, and he doesn't have a profile picture or anything like that. His name's like LK47B or something like that, just some troll. But you know, he's talking about self-righteousness and how he would just pray in a situation and doesn't do the fighting, and would never lift a finger and all this other stuff. Just really pathetic, and stuff that I totally can't stand. I ended up just deleting his comment, but you know, it got me annoyed, and it's probably the reason why I'm doing this video right now, because it is something I want to talk about for a while. And like I say, most Christians, a majority of them don't know this, and they can't handle it. So, but my story continues on, and ultimately I end up going into combat situation and everything else. But you know, all my life I've always been prepared and ready for it, and I still do to this day. I train in every single way possible, so that I can protect somebody if they're ever in danger, because I feel like it's my responsibility, you know, to protect the weak and those that aren't stronger than me. And if I were to ever get to an age, you know, I hope that the generation below me would understand it and pass it on. And for an older person who can't fight anymore, yeah, it's totally understandable. You get to an age where you can't physically fight the way you can, but it's responsibility of me and the people my age to take over that mantle to protect others and stuff when the elders can't. And of course, the elders can always pray, because that's a form of fighting in itself, you know. But Psalms 37:11, King James, but the meek shall inherit the earth and shall delight themselves in the abundant prosperity. Okay, this word meek, it is associated in Strong's and everything else is weak, humble, lowly, totally pathetic, and really lame. And you know, and it says that they will inherit the earth, right, in Psalms. And it's like, you know, it's always bothered me. And I had plenty of conversations in the past, like, God, I fight to protect others. How can that be wrong? You know, I look to you as a model, and you weren't out seeking revenge for yourself, but if something was coming on others that was wrong, like the money changers or false leaders that were religious leaders back then, you were there fighting to protect them and whipping people in shape and throwing tables over, you know, and that seems righteous to me. So I've always had it on my heart, and I never felt that it was wrong in any single way. And of course, as I got older and learned more of the Bible, I wasn't wrong at all in this situation. It's completely right. And then when God, of course, has to talk to you one-on-one, and he tells you that he's made you to be a warrior, and he's handed you these gifts and this burden to bear, you know, nothing anybody ever says anytime will take that away. If it's from God, you're going to do it no matter what, you know, and I feel that it is. But I feel like a lot of Christians haven't really lifted up or carried this burden, and in a way it's our responsibility to be it, because as Christians we're to be selfless, and which is the pillars of honor, and we're to be the most honorable that we can be, and like I say, always there to help others and stuff. But I want to talk about this word meek, okay? In the English, like I said, I've told you what it means, but in the Greek, the word is pros, okay? And it's what they use to talk about horses or a war horse, okay? And then it's the strength of that horse, more powerful than the rider on the horse, unbridled strength, all right? But it's brought under control, and it's powerful, and it only responds to the voice of its master and none other, okay? As Christians, we're under our master's control, which is the Father, you know, God, Jesus. We answer to him alone, okay? But you can be absolutely the most powerful, all right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because you're not out hurting people. You would only use that to protect others. This strength isn't to be boastful or showing off or anything like that. It is to protect when the time comes, and to use it for that. And just like Pra is talking about the horse in Greek, this war horse would be ready for war, unbridled strength and speed, and would be able to do all kinds of damage and carry the load of weaponry and everything else, but yet would obey its master and would be completely submissive to that, the way that we should be as Christians too. All right, and I think that this definition really gives the character that it's supposed to be, because when you hear meek and Jesus is like, I am meek, you're not thinking of Jesus as lowly and pathetic. Jesus was humble, wise, self-sacrificing, and honorable, yet when he comes back to take over authority and we're with him, it's going to be blood up to the horse's bridle. The words that come out of his mouth are just going to be slaying people left and right, okay? He's the ultimate weapon, all right? But he's completely under control, and he holds it for the right time. And only then does he strike down, okay? With plenty of chances that he gives people, right? This is the word that really defines it. And this is what we're supposed to be as role models, okay? We should be weapons in every single way. But at the same time, to be humble and not be out there looking for trouble all the time and stuff like that, but always be ready for it if it does come, so that we can protect others. The word in Aramaic was lemakian, and it was like that, only submissive to the Father's will. We were to look to him and be honorable to him and live a life that represents, honorly and knightlyship that the Father has, and that you are a Christian, okay, that you're called out for that, and that you have a higher purpose to inspire others, all right, and to do the right thing, and to be absolutely strong, not something pathetic and weak and like, I don't want to be like that, but something to be looked up to, like, that's incredible, how does this guy do it? And of course, then we can tell others that it's not us, we do it through the strength that Christ gives us inside of us, and that's very important. And it's really important to talk about this too, because I think witnessing to guys that aren't saved, a lot of times they don't want to think about being a Christian, and I've seen it before, because they think that they're going to have to be pansies, all right, and weaklings, and it's completely the opposite case. You can be the greatest, warrior ever, and totally be a Christian at the same time, because you're only using that to fight evil. Evil's the one that should be running, not the good guys ever, okay? All right, so this is the actual word of meek, and when you think of that, and the meek inheriting the earth, it gives it a whole other perspective on what it's going to look like. These guys are warriors, humble, caring, self-sacrificing, but absolutely devastating in battle, okay? And that's absolutely how it should be, okay? All right? I want to read something here, and this was something, I was listening to the radio the other day, and like I say, pastors don't talk about it much. I've heard this one guy, he comes on at 6:30 on CSN radio, Christian news channel or whatever, and I can't stand him, and most of the time he's talking about tithing, and he's completely off on his teaching, and it's so jacked up, but he prides himself in this one time in particular, and I was sick to my stomach, and he ended up talking to a Navy SEAL and guilt tripping the Navy SEAL into not fighting anymore. And this preacher, I would love to ask, like, do you even understand the country that was bled for and fought for, that you live in freedom? Talking about America was given because of the sacrifice of others that are fighting for you, that allowed you to have this freedom, and he wouldn't even have it if that wouldn't have taken place, And it's like, what an idiot. And just one of the many things I've heard from this guy, and it's so annoying. I can't think of his name right now, but it drives me nuts. And he just prides himself. He's like, well, blah blah blah. And the Navy SEAL ended up getting out of the military afterwards because of that. And it's just like, wow, man, absolutely wow, what a slap to the face. And that's what this preacher he prided in. One of the things that he prides himself in. It's like just pathetic. Well, one of the other guys comes on around 5:30. His name's Matt Fox from Band in Oregon. He was talking about just the opposite, and it's so refreshing because this guy is usually right on when he talks about stuff, and I love listening to him. And he was talking about Christians and fighting when there's a time for it. We're not to be looking for it, but at the same time, we should always be ready. And we're defenders, all right, of the innocent and the weak, and there is a time to fight. And one of the stories he was talking about was Nehemiah. And I was listening to it, and it was really good. And I want to read that. Right now, real fast, so you can kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about here. All right, Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 12. And I'm going to read this whole thing here all the way to 23. It kind of finishes up chapter 4. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, for all places whence ye shall return unto us, they will be upon you. All right, they're trying to build a wall. They get the the command from Artaxerxes that they can start to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem and build Jerusalem up. Okay, so they're doing that, and they've got a lot of persecution coming against them. People threatening them, they're going to kill them and stuff like that. Right? And these guys don't want that. They just want to build the wall, but they're being attacked. Okay. Therefore, said I in the lower places, this is Nehemiah speaking, lower places behind the wall and on higher places, I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. And it came to pass from that time forth that half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, the bows, and the habergeons, the armor. And the rulers were behind all the houses of Judah, they which builded on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that laid in every one of his hands wrought in the work, and the other hand held a weapon. Okay, one of them's got a shovel, they're digging and building, and the other one's holding a weapon, ready to fight, because these guys could be attacked at any time, right? You have an absolute gift that you have an absolute right to defend yourself at all times, all right? This is part of the Second Amendment and why you're to bear arms. We're not out shooting innocent people or anything like that. But if a tyrannical government or something were to come after you, you have an absolute right to defend your life, okay? At any time. And this is a God-given right, okay? For the builders, everyone had his sword girded by his side, and so building. He that sounded the trumpet was by me. And as I said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. And in that place, therefore, ye hear the sound of the trumpet. Resort ye hither unto us. Our God shall fight for us, okay? Here is talking about God fighting for them, but yet they're holding the swords in their hand. They're not sitting there on their knees begging for mercy, okay? And hoping for the best. They're fighting, but they're going to be delivered, because that is how it works as a Christian. You don't just sit at your house and hope that people just come to you and you can magically witness to them. You get out there and you fight for them, okay? And you do what you can, and then while you're praying, God opens up the circumstances, all right? We give and God gives, okay? At the same time, you don't just wait the whole time for God. And it's the same thing in this fighting situation, all right? So we labored in our work, and half of them held the spears from the rise of the morning till the stars. Likewise, at the same time, said I unto the people, let everyone with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may guard to us and labor on day. So neither I nor my brethren nor servants nor the men of the guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that everyone put them off for washing, okay? This is a really great example of being protective, being a defender, okay? These guys are trying to build this wall, build back Jerusalem. And, they've got the enemy coming against them, and they don't have a choice. They have to be ready to fight at all times, okay? Because the enemy goes around like a roaring lion and seeking who he may devour. And I've heard so many times people before, like, we fight against principalities and spiritual darkness. Yeah, absolutely. And we also fight against the physical too. Those spiritualities might be influential, but it's the physical that's pulling the trigger and pointing it at your family, okay? And if you go over there and separate that guy's arm from the gun physically and remove it from his body, he can't do that, okay? And that is a physical act that takes place. So we are in both realms. We've got one foot here that we deal with things, and we have one foot on the other side, that we deal with things in that. And we're to balance both of those as equally and fairly as we can, all right? But this is a very good example of why that we absolutely need to be warriors as Christians, okay? At the same time, we're to use wisdom about everything that we do. In Exodus 22, 2-3, if a thief is caught breaking in at night and is struck a fatal blow, the defender is not guilty of bloodshed, okay? This guy's breaking into the house at night, and you take him out, all right? You're not guilty of bloodshed, okay? But if it happens after sunrise, the defender is guilty of bloodshed. It's making the point that if he tries to do it during the day or it's seen, all right, then you are guilty because you know what's going on. You can see it, and you might be able to scare the guy or something like that. That's why you leave killing kind of as a last resort. Other times there are times when you don't have a choice. But this in Exodus kind of gives a really good example, and it's kind of put into their law, all right? I want to read Luke 22, 35-38. And he said unto them, this is Jesus, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said, no, nothing. Then he said unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip, and he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say to you that this that is written must ye be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, it is enough. All right. This is Jesus telling them, and they're like, oh, we got 2 swords. All right. But he's making the point. All right. When he was with them, absolutely, he was their protection. He was their divine miracles. All right. Nothing was going to happen while they're there. But when he was gone, the church, you're gonna have persecution. Okay, you will your entire life if you're walking with God, and the more you're trying to lead others to Christ, you will have persecution. Okay, this is why he says have a sword. It's an example of you need to be ready because you can be attacked. Okay, and we do fight things in multiple realms here, and it's not only a responsibility to take care of ourselves, it's a responsibility to take care of those who are weaker than us. All right, and why? When people are like, oh, I just lay down and die. Well, if you do that, that's less chance for you to be able to talk to others about Christ. So no, I wouldn't recommend doing that. Try to stay around as long as you can, okay? All right, I got a verse here. This one's my favorite, and I have it on kind of my back page, all right? But it's Psalms 144:1. Blessed be the Lord, my strength, which teaches my hands to war and my fingers to fight. Okay, I just love that verse. It talks about combat. It is possibly one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible. And, it shows where your strength comes from. It's from God. And even though I can do things and stuff like that, it is God that has given me those gifts to do that, And I really think that one is just awesome. Psalms 82:4 NIV, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked, okay? Let's say a FEMA camp gets your buddy or somebody's going to get their head chopped off, all right, for having the faith. They have not done anything wrong. It's a corrupt system that's done it. It is your responsibility to rescue them, rescuing the weak and needy. But I can't rescue them in a wheelchair. Well, you can pray, okay? And as doing that, you can give power and help others that maybe can do it, all right? Because prayer is a form of weaponry too, all right? And it's very important. We're to be warriors in the spiritual and in the physical, okay? And this goes to show you, that new movie Paul that came out, where Paul was trying to curse that guy that was trying to rescue him and stuff. If somebody's making a decision that they want to sacrifice their life, that's one thing, but most of the time people don't. And if somebody was to be captive, yes, absolutely, you have a right to go defend them and protect them and get them out of that situation, okay? And I'm totally for it, 100%, because it is our responsibility as Christians to rescue the weak and the needy and deliver them from the hand of the wicked, okay? Proverbs 24:11 NIV, rescue those being led away to death, hold back those staggering towards slaughter. Here's a great one. Rescue those being led away to death, those that are about to be slaughtered or hanged or have their heads chopped off, all right? Maybe if you're watching this in the tribulation or something like that, all right? Yes, absolutely rescue them. But those that are staggering to die and about to die, you're not supposed to go up and deliver the final blow. It's to give them respite. It's like after a battle is over and there's there's both teams that are injured, and they're trying to get back to their side. You don't go in there and start killing them off. You allow them to get back to their side and recuperate and stuff like that. And it's a sign of honor, okay, and respect, really. 1 Timothy 5:8, King James, but if any provide not for his own, especially those of his house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Those Christians that would sit back and be like, no, I'm not going to do anything, that, to me, that's a complete abomination. I'm going to tell you guys a personal story. November 2nd, 2016. I hit a deer my first time, and I barely got him, but I took him out to my uncle's house, and it was in the morning. And it was really early, and I felt bad for waking him up, and we were just going to see if we could get any meat off the thing. And when we were out there, it was getting close to the election between Trump and Hillary, and it was looking like we were about to get into a civil war of some sort, because if she would have got in, we'd already be in one right now. And I'd been talking about a few things before that, and he has a neighbor that lives with him down behind the house that stays there. And he was asking some questions, and I was like, yeah, it's getting close. Who knows what could happen, Well, it was getting so close that my uncle got nervous, and he told me that morning, Jared, I don't care if something were to happen, we stay here or whatever, but I don't want you to think that we're shooting off missiles, and fighting and all that other stuff. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just like kind of in shock, like, what are you saying? I wish I had a missile. But I'm like just listening. He goes, Jared, we don't do the fighting. God does it for us. And it was. I didn't talk to him for probably about 6 months or so after that. I was in absolute shock. And I had not seen an act of cowardice like that. And to think that it would come from my family, it really set me back. And I love my uncle, and it was really terrible to hear him say that. I started having flashes of all the guys in the Bible that had went into a combat situation and fought, and the things that my grandfather did in World War II to protect others and fight the bad guys off, and what I've done in war to fight the bad guys off. And I just like, I was so insulted. It was the most ridiculous, cowardly thing I've ever heard. And, absolutely God does the fighting for us, but we don't just sit there on the sidelines and do nothing. We absolutely pick up the armor and the shield and the sword, and we go out there and we show that we have faith and we believe that God's going to be behind us in that act, and that is where our strength and power comes from. It's a give situation. God comes into it. It's just like I was saying earlier, if you're witnessing something, you don't just sit at your house and wait for it. You go out there and you pray about it, and you're talking with God, and He brings it your way and gives you the strength and the right words to say to get through to Him. Not you. It's Him through the Holy Spirit that does it, okay? And it's the same way with this combat situation, okay? You're not out there looking for trouble, but if you're defending those and protecting yourself or defending your own household, you absolutely have a solemn right and duty to protect those and those that you love. And I find that it's not women that have a problem with this. It's weak men, all right? Those are the ones that are usually complaining, oh, we shouldn't do anything. We just need to lay down and die. Oh, I'm so weak. Just pathetic. I can't stand it. And it's like I say, it's men that are like that, and it's the church that has created that through this meek, all about prosperity gospel nonsense that have created that. And it's not really women that I haven't talked to any women that are like that. Most of the time they would much rather be around a guy that can fight and defend, you know what I'm saying? So it's really it's really something. But I really am trying to clarify this, because it's not wrong to be a fighter. It's not wrong to be a warrior, and you're absolutely called to. And as a Christian, you should be at a higher level than anybody else, okay? You're looked up to in a way, and you're the one that should be first to step out when it's time to defend somebody else that's weaker or smaller, not the world, okay? You're setting the example of what it's like to be a Christian and inspire somebody who is this guy, and why can he do that, and where does this courage come from, and why is he so selfless, all right? That's the kind of person you should be as a Christian, okay? It is so important, all right? The strength comes from God, okay? Psalms 44, 5-7, King James Version. Through thee will push down our enemies. Through the name we will tread them under the rise again, coming against us. For I will not trust in my bow, neither shall I trust my sword. Save me, but thou hast saved us from our enemies and hast put them to shame that hated us, okay? We take up these weapons, but that strength does not come from us. Even though we might have some, our true strength comes from within. And this is why it's not just fighting one person, but we can take on armies, okay, that come against us, because it's God that's with us, all right? And that is where the real power comes from, okay? There's different situations that I could talk about, but when it comes on, when it really comes on strong, it's that strength where these things of renown come from. It comes from God, okay? I'm going to read something here. 1 Samuel here. 1 Samuel 17, all right? 46 through 51. This day will the Lord deliver thee. This is King David, okay? He's out there in front of Goliath. The armies have all cowered. Nobody's going out there, and Goliath's mocking Israel, okay? And they're all set back, and he's a giant, and everybody's freaking out and totally afraid, okay? This day will the Lord deliver thee. And this is David saying this out to Goliath. Into my hand, and I will smite thee, and take thy head from thee, and I will give the carcass of the host of Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Okay, he's totally defying this guy, and I love it. All right. And all the assembly shall know, and now he's talking to Israel itself, and all the assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword, the spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. Now, do they not have spears and weapons and swords and shields? No, they all do, and they're all getting ready for battle, and they're sitting there getting ready to defend themselves from this. But at the same time, where is this power coming from? Where's this strength? And who's actually going to deliver it, right? Who delivered them when they would go into Israel and Canaan in the first place to take out the giants, all right? They would go in there, Joshua and the crew, and they would show their character, or they would show their courage, but God was behind them, and they would take out a certain amount of the Nephilim, and rocks would come out of the sky right behind them and take out 2/3 and more, so that there was more killed by God than with them, but they would still step out there in faith, and that's the whole point. That power comes from God, the real power that's behind it, okay? So he tells the assembly this, and it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David. Okay, now Goliath's pissed off, right? And he's coming out. He's like, this guy's gonna pay, you know? Who the heck does he think he is? He's a small fry. Nobody else will step here. I'm gonna squish him and take out all of Israel, you know? What does David do? Does he cower behind a rock or start freaking out? No, completely the opposite, right? And it came and drew nigh to meet David, and David hasted, right? David started running towards it. Instead of slowing down or freaking out, he makes a beeline straight for Goliath, across the field, out from everybody, and out from all the defenses behind him. Straight towards him, he starts running, right? And as he's doing it, he runs towards the armies to meet the Philistines, and David put his hand in his handbag and took thence a stone, just one. He pulls it out while he's running towards him, all right? And slang it. Boom! As he's still going towards Goliath, all right, the guy that everybody's afraid of, he's running out there all by himself. And the only thing he has is his trust in God and his skill with the sling, all right, that he's taken out things before. But where does that power come from? He might be slinging it, but it's God. It reminds me of angels in the outfield when they're throwing the ball and the angel behind him makes it go like 1,000,000 miles an hour faster, you know? God comes down, gives it a little boost and directs that sucker and takes out Goliath, all right? And smote the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead and fell upon his face to the earth, all right? He just totally obliterated Goliath's forehead with this rock, okay? So David prevailed over the Philistine with the sling and with the stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of his sheath, therefore, and slew him and cut off the head of therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And everybody's all in shock, right? Like, what the heck just happened? That was awesome, right? Totally badass. Not pansy, not meek and lowly and totally lame. Humble, friendly, takes care of the lambs. Totally nice. You could totally talk to him. You could hold your kid, and you wouldn't ever have to worry about it being in danger. And yet, he just took out the most dangerous guy that all the army of Israel is freaking out about. Okay, legendary, right? And he went and cut off his head so that there was no chance he'd be coming back to life. Since Nephilim and giants have regenerative properties, okay, that's why you want to take their heads. Okay, that story is incredible. Okay, the point is Proverbs 28:1, the wicked flee, though no man pursueth, all right? Wicked are cowards. They will always run away, and even if nobody's chasing them, they're quick to talk and quick to run away. But the righteous are as bold as a lion, all right? That is something important to remember. As a Christian, you are as bold as a lion, and it's your responsibility to be, okay? You're to be strong. You're to be a representation of the Most High. You're an ambassador for Christ. You are a weapon in every single sense, okay? And I've talked about this multiple times before, but, you know, it's very important for you. It's very important for Christians to understand, all right? One of David's top men, 2 Samuel 23:8, it was his top man, all right, of his mighty men. And, you know, I don't look up to people. Samson and this guy, Adino, the Ensignite, this is pretty not hard not to be inspired by this, but this guy who's his top dude slew 800 in one battle with a spear. All right, that is legendary. Okay, taking out that many people in one fight with a spear, it's dang amazing. Okay, and it's only surpassed by Samson. Okay, and his strength. All right, we got to think when Samson was ripping the jaws off that lion, or when he's taking out those 1,000 guys. You know, it wasn't his strength. It was the Holy Spirit coming into him and giving him that. Yes, he was there, and yes, he was using his body and what he had as weapons, a jawbone of a donkey, right? The jawbone of a donkey against 1,000 guys in armor and shields and spears and everything else that are coming against him. And he's showing his character. He's going out there to slay them. But where does the strength come from to blow them away? All right? It's coming from God. Okay? It's a symbiotic relationship between the two that you have, all right, as a Christian. Yes, you put your trust in him, and yes, you go out there and you're the one standing in front of it, but God is also behind you, and when you trust in that, you have nothing to fear. Okay, now seeking revenge, though, that's something different. I just want to touch on it real fast. Recompense no man for evil, provide the things honest in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Okay, or to be peaceably at all times. You know, if I was out being a jerk or pushing power or something like that, you know, I wouldn't be the Christian life. People wouldn't want to be around you or anything like that. You're to be selfless and honorable and somebody that people inspire to want to be around. And that's how we're supposed to be, okay? But, you know, at the same time, you have a right to defend others and yourself if the time comes. But if it's on you, you always have that choice if you want to do revenge or leave it in God's hand. And it's something that I have to work with, you know. When it comes on me, it's one thing. Like, you know, I can let this slide. I can give it up. It's when evil tries to hurt others that I have the biggest problem. And that is where I see Jesus, you know, with religious leaders and stuff. People who would be like church leaders stealing money through tithes and stuff nowadays, where Jesus goes in and flips it over and whips them and stuff, you know. That is who he had the problem with, and I totally understand. And look what he's doing. He's not avenging himself. He's protecting others. And I'm totally for it, all right? In these movies, that you see like Batman and like Green Arrow and stuff like that, you know, They have to go through a test. Every billionaire and stuff like that, it's going to turn out to be like just a piece of crap normally, you know. But they go through these tests in life where it creates the character that they're going to be, so that when the time comes and they come back, they have the honor and integrity to know what to do with the money and what they have, the abilities they have, and they use it to protect others, all right? And then they are worthy to be given the trust fund that they have. And, you know, just like in life that we're in right now, this is a testing phase. And just like that, we go through this whole life and we're creating a character that's going to be like that. So when we pass on the next life, it's like our trust fund, okay? You will look at trillions of dollars and laugh at chump change compared to who you are. You're the king of the universe's, the master of the universe's son, child, that you can step right up to the throne in front of the angels and stuff like that, who are warriors, you know. But you're not a spoiled little brat, child. You're a great weapon who represents the king, who can fight in battle with angels if you had to, and you represent that. And you get to walk right up in front of everybody and the king, and you know you have the prestige and honor and the respect from others because you've lived a selfless life and followed Christ, and you've passed the test, you know, and it's really going to be something incredible. That's like your trust fund that you're going to have. So in a way, we're all going through that test too, and we're going to move on to something more, you know, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. Like I say, it's really it's a respectable thing, and it's a selfless life. And like, if you are a warrior, you already know that you're one of the rarest version of being a Christian. Most Christians, they have no idea of it, and there's a place for softness and kindness and weakness, absolutely. And it's the strong man or strong woman's responsibility to know that there is a time for that, but there's also a time for strength. And the thing is you know that being a strong person, if you are, whereas the weak, they never can see it. There's never a time for violence or anything like that. Oh, it'll work out. It's all just fine. No, there's never a time for that. And you have to carry that burden on your shoulder as well, to look out for people who would hate you and spit in your face. While when they're not looking, you're defending them from enemies that would come against them. It's an incredible responsibility, and it's a shame that most Christians don't realize that there is a purpose for it and a place for it in their walk with Christ, and to be a Christian. And absolutely, there's a place. And like I say, it's something that I've dealt with my entire life. The first time that I had ever killed anybody was my 24th birthday, and I look back at some of the different things that happened during that time, and I have absolutely no regret for it whatsoever, and I can't. One of the reasons that I went over to Iraq wasn't because of 9/11 and stuff like that. It was because Al-Qaeda and them were killing innocent other people, and like I've said before, there's good and bad wherever you go, and I'm happy to fight evil wherever it is, because, like I say, I feel like that's a responsibility as being a Christian, to fight evil and put it in its place, and be an example as a Christian. But these three guys were coming out of the tree line. It was in the evening, and it was funny because some of the guys were talking like, hey, I wonder if we get into our first firefight or get some bad guys on Beeler's birthday. And they were talking about it a few days before, and then sure enough, that's exactly what happened, and it was on my birthday. It was very interesting. And these guys were in the open, and they were getting ready to set up a mortar, and they were about to shoot into a camp down the road, and hit some guys down there that were other infantrymen and stuff like that. And we get the call, and went on the gun, and me and Greg and Jared, and we got it set up, and I was the gunner on the 120, and we shot down the road, and took those guys out, and I didn't even hear it happen. It was a little ways away. I think it was just about 7 miles or just under that, and I listened, and I never even heard it, but we got the radio call back, confirmed, and those guys had been taken care of, And I really had to set myself straight for what I was doing when I was going over there, because otherwise you can come back with issues and stuff like that. It's like, why am I fighting? And it's always been the same reason: to protect others, because I know what it's like losing a fight. I got into a fight. I was in a street fight when I was younger, and I've been in lots of them, but I got into this one, and I had lost. It was the first time I'd lost, and when you lose, it's kind of the thing you want to do when you're teaching the bad guy. You want to rethink everything. Like, what am I doing this for? If I'm being a jerk, or if I'm in the wrong, I don't want to do this anymore, because it hurts. It hurts to get beat up, So I thought about it, and I'm like, what am I doing this for? And it's like, I'm not doing it to be a jerk, and I don't do it to show off. I do it to fight guys that are in the wrong place and doing the wrong thing. And because I had lost that fight, 2 or 3 other people in town got beat up for no reason by this guy who was going around being a bully and stuff like that, and it really bothered me. And it's like, I can't be second best or just ordinary. I have to be the best at hand-to-hand combat in every single way, all right? And I take this seriously in everything I do. Like I say, my Christian walk is mine alone, and I wish people would take it more seriously in other parts that are Christians, but you want to be the best in everything you do. Always leaving an example, whatever it is, to be legendary, so people go, who is that guy and where does it come from? And you'll have a testimony for your walk in Christ, okay? And it's so important, but I lost, and some people got beat up, and I felt terrible about it, but I trained harder, and it was after this that I ended up training with that clan of ninjas that I've told you guys about before, and my master back then, it was always written on me, because God made me special in that way, and both the times I've had masters, they both were like, there's something special about you. You learn exceptionally fast, and then when it's confirmed in 2014, when God tells you that He made you to be a warrior the whole time, and He wants nothing less from you, it's like, oh man, nobody's ever going to take that from you, and it's an amazing feeling. But like I say, the strength comes from in that situation. We got those guys, but a little bit down the road in the last firefight that I got into, we had been doing some damage for a while, and it was outside of Fallujah, and we were doing a 2-man gun team, and Al-Qaeda, they had called up Al-Qaeda up in Afghanistan and brought them down into Iraq because they wanted to take us out. Fallujah was hellhole. This was in '07, on March 27th, and we were in this little town of Karma in an old morgue that we turned into a little operation point, and they were serious about taking us out, and they had planned the whole thing. And that morning, the Bravos that we were doing support on, stuff like that, because we were on a 2-man mortar team, and I was gunning on one of the 120s, and my buddy Nick Pulsard was gunning on the other, and he had a couple guys on his team, Gallagher and Day, and I think Taylor, and then on mine was my buddy Jared and Greg, and we were doing the other one, all right? And I took real pride that I was like the number one gunner all the time, and I had the fastest time and all that other stuff, and it was something I took very seriously, that I was always trying to be the best and stuff while I was in the military. But this morning, we didn't know, but 100 Al-Qaeda or so had come down, and they had set up an ambush plan across the street, and there was only probably about maybe 30, 40 of us all together there, maybe even less. And that morning, the Bravos that we were supporting and stuff, who were using that point, they were up the road doing some kind of training or something else, so they knew just when to attack. So there might have only been about 15 or so of us at this little camp, right? And we're sitting there in the morning, and I'm on this little dinky TV and stuff like that, and I had already gotten a word from my mom before I ever went to Iraq that no bullet would touch me. It was a little prophecy she gave me, and I took it very seriously, that no harm would come to me while I was over there fighting these terrorists and stuff. And we're sitting there this morning, and we hear some gunfire on the roof, and the guys start to put on their IBAs, their bulletproof vests, and things like that. And I wasn't too worried about it, because you hear gunfire and stuff all the time, so I was like, whatever, I'll let them get all their stuff on. And right about this time, the whole place just goes up, ba-boom, like a bomb had just dropped right outside the door. And what had happened is they just set off a V-bed right outside the camp. It was supposed to go into our wall, right where our mortars were at, and it had 1,000 pounds of explosives, blew the truck to pieces, just places blowing off, half across camp. There's this moored freezer door, and it was blowing right off the hinges. All the windows and stuff blew in. TV that I was watching was about this big, blows off towards my face, and the cord catches and falls to the ground. I get my IBA on and stuff like that, pops are spinning all over the floor from the pressure in there. It just caused them to explode. It's amazing we all have our hearing, well, it's most of us. And it was crazy. We don't know where it's coming from. We look outside, and there's metal and pieces of stuff everywhere, and it was totally crazy. And it's like, holy mackerel. And why this is happening, we're just like, wow, dude, the next one could land right on us, and we're thinking that they're dropping mortars. We didn't even know that it was a V-bed at that time. So Plasard, the other gunner on the other two, he gets hit by shrapnel in the process of this in his arm, and he's down, and he's going to go out and get medevaced out. Well, while he's out of there, they blow another V-bed with 2,000 pounds of explosives right in the camp, and thankfully the guys on the roof were able to shoot the drivers, and they self-detonated and blew the place sky high even more. And more stuff spinning around, and it's out of control. And we still don't know yet that they're not dropping mortars or right outside of our door. So we get the radio that we need to go out there and get on the guns and stuff. And I'm like, well, here we go. Probably the next one that drops, we're going to be out there and we're all going to die, I'm thinking, oh, great. And but we get the call, so it's like, okay, we look at each other, and boom, out the door, and we stay as low as we can. We come around, metal and pieces of crap everywhere, a little sniper net that we have, because we didn't have any protection in this little camp. We just had a net, so any snipers that were shooting would be shooting random, but it would shoot right through it. Well, it's down, so we just have this dinky little cement wall, and we get out there on the gun, and I'm thinking, oh, great, this is all on me now, because Plasard's down, so my gun's the only one that I'm going to be able to get up, And those guys go over there, they're on his team, and they're trying to get it up and everything like that. Well, I go over there, and I get this deflection from the sergeant. He was like, elevation 15, charge 0. And we're shooting 120s. Those are 39-pound rounds that are absolutely gigantic, and you're not supposed to shoot them danger close because they have a 450-meter blast radius, so anything in that, you'd be taking damage yourself. You're supposed to shoot ways out there. Well, he says, elevation 15, charge 0. I'm like, what? Over the gunfire. I'm like, because the guys up on the roof, they're in shorts and everything else because they caught us in the morning and not everybody's awake. And he's like, elevation charge, elevation 15 charge 0, which is straight up. And I'm thinking, holy mackerel, this is crazy. And I'm like, it sounds like you said elevation 15 charge 0. And the sergeant yells out, "I did, they're across the street." So I'm going, oh, you've got to be kidding me. If I do anything wrong in the slightest, we're all going to die from our own explosions, right? And at the same time, I'm thinking, I have got to do this as fast as possible. And I'm like, because any second now, they can drop some orders on us or shoot in the camp, and we're all going to die. And I'm going to take as many of these guys out as I possibly can. And of course, it's going through my mind, what my mother had told me, that no bullet would touch me while I was there. And I'm thinking, if this is ever going to happen, it needs to be happening right now, because if it doesn't, I'm dead, and so is everybody else. And of course, Bassard, he's already been taken off, and those guys are trying to get the gun. So I get the gun up, and I'm like, it's ready to go. And Greg's with me, and Jared's off he was taking care of Bassard, but he runs back across, so he's getting these rounds ready for us. We got a 10-round blast we got to shoot. We got to drop 10 of these as fast as possible. And they're getting them all ready, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. And the sergeant's like, you guys fire whenever you're ready. And I'm like, okay. And I told Greg to hang it, and poof, we started shooting them. Leveled the gun back up. Jared hung it. Boom. I think we had 5 in the air, just across the street, and I'm watching it. And I'm watching it, and I'm leveling the gun, and they're coming down across the street. And this is the closest I'd ever seen 120s blowing up or anything like that. The mushroom clouds start going up across the street, the little mini mushroom clouds, and everything just blowing sky high all over the place. And we're still hanging them and shooting them. And we get the 10 rounds out of there, and those guys on the other gun where Bassard was gunning, they're having a hard time getting it up. So I see them put all their rounds on their shoulders, and they start low jogging over to my circle, and I look over, and I'm just like, yeah. And they came over, and each one of them started hanging rounds from the other two down ours, so we shot all of those off of our gun across the street too. Everything's just blowing up. It's totally crazy. And some guys during this were down the street, I think a couple miles away, and they were trying to shoot at a camp into one of our other camps and take advantage of the situation. So we shot down there and blew those guys up. And then there was one over the building where the Bravo slept, where all the brass was, the lieutenants and captains and those guys, where they were hiding out right now at the time. And I had to shoot over there through this deflection on my armpit, and I was a little bit worried about that. But we shot over there and landed on the vehicle that was on the other side. This firefight lasted about 35 minutes or so, and it was really intense. And we all made it through it. And instead of us being dead, because we were outnumbered like 5-1, it was crazy. There were so many guys there that day. Instead, they were all dead. And absolutely, there was no other way that I see this without God having intervention there, I went out there and I got on the gun. Yeah, I was nervous, and it felt like we could have died at any second, but I still faced the enemy. And being a Christian and believing in God, I always feel that He's behind me in everything that I do. And He was there that day. And the enemies were left wasted, completely obliterated, all right? And I walked through pieces of terrorists that were all over the place after this. It was there was heads all over camp and chunks of guys, and we were all talking afterwards like, wow, that was crazy, And we look over and I'm thinking there's a dead cat next to us, and no, it's some terrorist's lower lumbar in his back. It was incredibly graphic, extreme situation, and but the armies of hell came against us, and God was there. I felt, and He was with me and on my side, and every single one of those guys paid the ultimate price. We called in the Apaches after this, and they flew out there because they had the infrared, and they're like, holy crap, there's way too many dead bodies out there. You guys are going to have to do a hand count. There's just too many pieces of stuff of them, and there was like 100 or so guys that we ended up finding out. It was totally crazy. And that was the last firefight that I had gotten into when I was in Fallujah. It was totally nuts, but I think about that all the time, and how God was there to protect and guide my hands, and was the power behind that whole situation that saved us out of that and destroyed our enemies. And I'm nothing like the guy that took out 800 guys with a spear, or Samson. I'm just another Christian, but. We're all called to be warriors, and I don't regret it at all, and I never will. I have no guilt for it at all. I was fighting evil, and I felt that was the right thing to do, and I have no shame in it at all. And that's kind of my story that happened when I was over in Iraq. But the truth is, most Christians don't realize what's going to happen when we step out of this realm and into the next. God is our Father and our friend and our King, and I really correlate with that, him being our King, and we we honor him in everything that we do, and we're to be a representation in every single way. But I think about that, I've heard some of the stories in heaven, and some of what people have been showing, and the armor and things that they carry, and it really is, it's something that like I say, just is not touched on in the church. I think it's all cupcakes and ice cream and stuff, and really there's a warrior side to it, and a prestige that is unmatched. And I would like to ask them, what do you think that you're going to do when Jesus says, okay, get ready to mount up on these horses. We're going down to Armageddon, and you're going to be ruling and reigning with me, and with the rod of iron, okay, we're going to be bringing in the law. And justice is going to be served, right? That's not cupcakes and popsicles. That's blood up to the horse's bridle, and it's going to be a devastating battle, and it's going to be justice. There is absolutely a place for it, but at the same time, we go around as somebody that's humble and kind, and we help others. But if that help requires it to be physical or to be a situation of battle, and absolutely we're to pick that up and carry that to protect others and help them out. And what I was shown in the rapture in 2014, the body that you have is so unbelievably powerful in every single way. I only got to experience a couple things of it, the flight and the eagle vision, but you will be unmatched, an unmatched warrior that only represents the master of the universe, and him being your father, okay? And this life that we go through, this test, this is our rite of passage, and in passing this leads us on to our trust fund as the heroes from the movie, and when we step into that, you will understand exactly what it's like. But it doesn't have to be then. You can always be now, and always be training for that and building your character, right? And that's a selfless life and an honorable life, protecting others and fighting. And there's always a place for that if the time calls for it, right? But you should always be ready and not be a weakling. And if you're too old for it, you can always pray, because that's a form of fighting too. And we fight in both realms in that situation. But I hope this clears things up a bit, and I got to lay quite a bit out here on this subject, and why it's important to me and stuff. And it's one of the most important things that I talk about, and I don't do it too much because people get offended and they can't handle it. And you know what? People just need to grow a pair. That's the truth. Because my channel's called The Unleashing for a reason. You should have known what you got into when you were watching it in the first place. And yeah, I preach the Word of God all the time, and I know the Bible very well because I read it every single day. And you guys have heard the things that I say and the discernment that I use. It comes from God and the Holy Spirit in me, and I love Him very much. But if it's time to pick up a sword or any sort of weapon to protect others, I absolutely will in a second. And that is the example of Prawn, all right? The stallion, all right? I'm not submissive to the world or anything else. They would break before they got control of me. But to my King, I absolutely kneel and honor Him in every single way. He is my only master and the one that I follow, and where my true strength comes from, okay? I really hope this helps a lot, and I'll catch you next time on Unleashing. God bless. Bye.